Welcome back, NoDQ Galaxy, to a brand new edition of the NoDQ Review, number 165. And I am Virtue, being joined by this week's elite panel of NoDQ. Of course, Aaron Rift is always here. Gargo is back and making his debut on the review. Michael Thurston, did I get that correctly? I'm on short notice here. I don't even know everybody's name, but I know you're Michael. What's up, man?
Yeah, Virtue, man. It's an honor to be on the show. 165 episodes in. You could just call me Mikey T. I'm publicly known as Mikey T, the movie star. I got my own YouTube channel, but it's not the time for plugs right now.
Well, you sound like you're a YouTube pro, so thanks for being on. And you know what the topics are tonight, and we're going to discuss them with the NoDQ Galaxy. So good to have you here. All right, Jargo. Long time no chat, man. What's up?
I know, man. I feel like we just did this a little bit ago, right? So Thanks for having me back, Aaron. It's great to see you. Mikey T, pleasure to meet you. And let's get down with the NoDQ universe tonight. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yes, and Aaron, look at this.
I love it.
I apologize to, I think, everybody I needed to apologize over on Twitter for being a troll slayer for all those years. But here's the new Virtue shirt right there. That's the back, and that's the front, designed by Aaron Rift. Thank you for that. That's over on NoDQ.com/merch with a bunch of other items as well. Aaron, what's up?
I'm doing pretty well. It's been a busy news day in the world of wrestling. We definitely got some interesting topics to discuss, and I would like to thank Mikey T for being on such short notice. He's been asking about being on the NoDQ review. We had a spot for him this week, so he's here. We got some fresh blood on tonight, and of course, happy to have Jargo back with us once again. Virtue, I'm loving that t-shirt, and we do have a few super chats already, so let me get to those real quick and we'll get started. Shanti with a $2 super chat says Shanti is back and he's excited to be here. We're happy to have you on, Shanti. And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. You'll like this one, Mikey T. He says, Mikey T versus Booker T, T on a pole match. What do you think about that?
Put the T on the pole. Put the T. Matter of fact, put it in one of the boxes. And then we got to find out which box it's in, right?
Ooh. Reference to WCW 2000. I like it.
Yeah. But not Aaron. I've been rocking with NoDQ.com since it was WWF That was creative. Then it went on to the Mayhem. So I've really been rocking with you for probably since the internet was created or something?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for your longtime support. And again, we finally got you on, so let's go ahead and get into this.
You know, and I brought Jargo on once just for the hell of it. Now he's a regular. So you never know what'll happen here on the review, because we need people that can be here weekly and want to discuss wrestling for the NoDQ Galaxy. But let's start hot and heavy. Jeff Hardy, and I don't want to come across and troll and joke, because I don't do that anymore. But he had some issues that we know at a house show recently and walked out into the crowd. He got sent home. Right now, this is all allegedly. He's gone from WWE. Did he refuse to go to rehab? A lot of things going on here with Jeff Hardy. And this has been something he's battled for years, because we can go back to TNA and we all saw it live on pay-per-view. Mike, I'm going to start with you. This is just a tough one to talk about, because, when somebody needs help, I don't want to be a fan on Twitter and say, oh, you should go get help, because, it's obvious, right? Everybody can say that, but it doesn't mean you're making a difference. I just hope that people in his life can make Jeff get to where he needs to be. And if he needs to be out of wrestling for a while to do that, family and your personal self first. But right now he's gone, and not for budget cut reasons, it appears. Mikey T.
It's pretty interesting that on the Stone Cold podcast, Jeff Hardy actually brought this up, and he was talking about how WWF or WWE at the time, whichever it was, they had offered him rehab and to go into a facility, and he was like, listen, I really just don't need it at this point. He didn't feel like he needed it back then, is what he was telling Stone Cold. And so a few years or whatever went by, he realized he needed some help. He got the help. He went through a major case as well that almost put him in jail, from what I was reading consistently. But then now it seemed like everything was back together for him, and now he's denying the help. So it's really strange to me. And then when we look at the other companies, like how TNA or Impact in the past really, they what did they do? They paid him money while he was going through these problems. You know what I mean? They put him on television and broadcasted him while he was going through these problems. Will AEW do the same thing? Will they hire him in 90 days? I really don't know.
Dude, Mike, you got to look at this as a legit serious thing. But because, I dig stuff up, when we don't know all the facts, you got to speculate too. Did he just want to get out of the company? Was he not happy?
Video.
I'm not saying, granted, with his history, we got to believe it's the worst scenario. But could this just, hey, I'm going to do this will fire me again, right? This will all unfold. We'll get more information as the days and weeks go. Any possibility in that, though?
A lot of people are saying they fired a lot of people that he was friends with, so they're not around, so he could actually go to talk to them. A lot of people are saying they're not even really doing anything with him. He got his old music back, and still they're just not doing anything with him. We saw a few weeks of Karrion Kross. We saw a few weeks of him feuding with Austin Theory. But then even this main spot they gave him at SummerSlam, you guys, where he was actually in the last two with Seth Rollins, him and Sheamus, they had that tag team combination. So they didn't really have too much for him at this point. So I could see that being the case virtue where he's like, they don't got nothing for me. They're letting my character drag. I'd rather be in AEW with Matt facing the Bucks, potentially facing Adam Cole, going for the championship. So that could be it, man. But when I watched that video, you guys, just to touch on it, it did look like something was wrong. Like, I was really trying to analyze the video. I'm like, he's moving slow. But then when Drew McIntyre got in the ring, and you could just tell a sober, clear-headed man jumping into action, I was like, something's wrong here, you guys.
Yeah, I might have been reaching, but I'd rather be like something like that, so you knew maybe he didn't fall off the wagon. But this is and it's just crazy because now you're released. I mean, again, we'll have to see how this all plays out. Jargo, I've met Jeff a couple times at various non-wrestling events here in Northeast Ohio, and he was always he didn't seem like he was intoxicated, drugged out, just a normal, mellow guy, likes his music. Again, that's just a couple times, but what would you like to add to this breaking news?
I mean, the biggest thing for Jeff at this point is Jeff has to realize that Jeff needs help. And until Jeff has that realization, there's not really a whole lot that anybody can do for him. You can even force the dude to go to rehab. If he doesn't want to be there, then inevitably it's just not going to help. It's like, they say in order to quit smoking, the first step is you have to decide that you want to quit smoking. You have to want to quit smoking, or you're never going to be able to do it. Right. So that's the biggest thing is, as far as Jeff goes, is his personal health. And hopefully we can see him back inside of a wrestling ring. I think the bigger blow here is to WWE, for the respect that Jeff Hardy is the kind of guy that you could always warm him up. And over the course of about 6 weeks, you could have him ready for a main event program with Roman Reigns, because he has that kind of cachet with the fans on an already very, very shallow depth chart over on SmackDown on the babyface side of the roster. You look at him potentially inside of AEW, I think the place for him to be is with Matt. But I have a feeling if you get Matt and Jeff together inside of AEW, they're just going to look like the two old guys. I mean, look at how athletic that AEW tag team division is right now. I'm like, Jeff inside of the WWE was great because he could go out there, he could hit all his signature spots and do all his little poses and paint his face. And that was enough for the WWE audience. I don't know if it is for the AEW audience, at least not past the initial, 16 to 20 weeks.
Just imagine, Jargo, go back to his career. And when the Hardy Boys got hot there in the late 90s, early 2000s, just everything in a 2 to 3 year window that he put his body through to get over. Yeah. And that was 20 years ago. And he's still been doing it, man. I just hope he's not getting into the wrong things again. And If it's just a little bit of drinking, okay. But like even that is not good, like performing.
I mean, even look at Matt, and it's no disrespect to Matt Hardy, but he's moving really, really slow. Like those hips got a lot of bumps on them. You know, all those top rope leg drops and whatnot. They take their toll at a certain point, and you just have. It's like his new character should be like immobile Matt Hardy.
Yeah, and we'll see. You know, I mean, Tony Khan's good friends with Moxley, and we know where Moxley's at right now. Maybe Jeff Hardy will listen to Tony Khan, and Tony Khan can be the savior for him. And I would take that. Aaron, what would you like to add to this breaking news today?
Well, first of all, I do not think that he purposely did this to get fired. I think that there is something going on here. And I'm really disappointed about it because I watched that Stone Cold podcast and it seemed like he was in a good place. It seemed like he was doing well. But at the same time, he is in his mid-40s and he's going out there. He's going hard. I could have sworn earlier this year I saw him come off the top rope to the outside with a swanton bomb onto the steel steps, and that looked like it hurt. And he's doing those crazy bumps in his mid-40s, and WWE went back on the road recently, and he's wrestling every week. He's putting that pressure on his body. He's getting banged up. And you have the temptations when you're out on the road. There's always going to be those temptations. Quite frankly, I think maybe it's time for him to just step away from wrestling for his own well-being and for the sake of his family. I think maybe it might be time to stop, at least as a full-time wrestler. Maybe he can do indie shows every now and then. I'm sure him and Matt will go into the Hall of Fame one day. They can go into the Hall of Fame. He can have maybe one more match at a WrestleMania or something. But unfortunately, I feel like his days as a full-time performer might be over. And I do not think Tony Khan will bring him in at least anytime in the near future. Maybe a year down the line, they'll bring him in to do something with Matt, and they can do the Hardys versus the Young Bucks as a one-off thing, and that's it. But I don't think we're going to see him coming into AEW anytime soon, and I think that it's probably for the best that he just focuses on his own well-being. And it's just a shame because I do think WWE had some plans for him. I do think we were going to see Roman Reigns versus Jeff Hardy. Jeff was doing the segments with Drew McIntyre, so clearly he was being positioned as one of the top baby faces on the SmackDown brand, and maybe Roman could have beaten him at the Royal Rumble, and then that sets up Drew McIntyre coming in to face Jeff Hardy. I definitely think that, or not Jeff Hardy, Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns. I definitely think that they had something planned for Jeff Hardy as far as moving forward into 2022. And Big G sent in a $5 super chat. He's not on tonight, but he is here in spirit. He said, shout out to the NoDQ review tonight. Well, thank you very much for that, Jeff. Go ahead.
He's just paying for a spot.
Exactly. So the only other thing I want to say is I wish the best to Jeff Hardy. I wish him well. We all love Jeff, and you could see the comments in the wrestling community. You could see the wrestlers. Big E commented, and several other people, Damian Priest, Leo Rush, everybody praising Jeff Hardy, and we're all in his corner. We're all rooting for him to stay healthy and be well, and that's all I got to say about it. Best wishes to Jeff Hardy.
If you want to get choked up a little bit, go on YouTube. I'm sure they're on there. Do you remember those WWE Desire videos from the early 2000s? And Jeff Hardy was like in all of them, some of his big spots. Yeah, those are probably going to be tough to watch now because that's a lot of the stuff that probably caused pain and stuff to his body that if he is self-medicating or whatever with alcohol and whatnot, it's the line of work that he's in. So hopefully he will be okay. Jargo, this is a throw-in topic right now, and I'm coming right over to you.
Well,
Phil,
hey, what about the potential of Jeff moving into a producer role? Like, we know how creative Jeff is. Like, I could see him going into somewhere like in AEW and just helping out on the creative side, let alone getting into the ring. That might be a way to save Jeff.
Then he's not taking bumps. Absolutely.
Right. Jargo, I think, I was driving earlier today and I was thinking about how they released Jeff Hardy after 2 days of all the chatter. And, I think that would have been a role that Jeff Hardy could have more so played in the WWE as a producer. But, man, with how many chances they've given him, I just think something hit Vince McMahon where he was like, that's it for Jeff. You know what?
God damn it, Jeff.
Well, and I hate to say this, Mike.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a Roman Reigns to back him up like Jimmy. Jimmy's still there. You know what I mean? That's politics is still a lot to do with it.
And let's on that note, Jimmy's problems are a little bit different than Jeff's. With Jeff's, we're talking about pharmaceutical drugs. We're talking about actual pills which is illegal to, purchase. It's illegal to purchase that. With the Uso, you can go out to any sort of club and drink, and he just sort of puts himself in that predicament. I mean, he has enough money, obviously, to Uber. I'm not making any, I'm not making any excuses for him, but there's a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah, let me add to that real quick. The difference between Jimmy Uso and Jeff Hardy is that Jimmy Uso's incidents happened outside of the ring. This thing with Jeff Hardy happened at a WWE live event, and the problem is if they offered him rehab, and if he turns it down and WWE keeps using him, WWE becomes a liability. They can get sued if Jeff Hardy comes out there and somebody gets hurt. And they did what they had to do. You cannot fault WWE at all for this. With Jimmy Uso, their attitude is what he does outside of WWE, that's his own life, his responsibility. He's responsible for his own actions, whatever they say. And as long as he shows up to work and does his job, then I guess they just let it slide.
Yeah, they let it slide in the 90s with Shawn Michaels. So, it is what it is. It's different eras. So we'll move on,
crazy. Right? I'm sorry, Virtue.
Yeah,
I don't know if you watched the Jeff Hardy interview with Stone Cold, but Aaron, you've talked about it. And it was just, they were talking about the Undertaker versus Jeff Hardy. And right after that match is when Jeff Hardy had got the option to do rehab. And they were really ready to put the company on Hardy's back at that point in time. And he just turned down the rehab, which it's kind of crazy. Even now, unless he wants to leave.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, a few days ago, there was an interview with Freddie Prinze Jr., who was a writer for WWE. And he talked about how there was this pitch for Jeff Hardy to win the WWE title in 2008, and Triple H was against the idea, feeling that it would be too risky to put the title on Hardy with his past. And eventually it happened, but Triple H was not really supporting that idea because he feared that Jeff Hardy might screw up while being the champion.
And when you look at it, every time Jeff has gotten pushed to the top of the card, he ends up self-destructing.
Yeah.
Same with TNA.
Yeah. I mean, you can't argue with what we've already known and what happened with Sting and TNA. So, yeah, he does have everything against him there. But we'll have to see what happens, and hopefully it's good news. Take some time off, man. All right, Jargo, this is just kind of a filler topic here. Fill us in on what's happening with Ring of Honor's last show before they take a hiatus, because I think it's and I liked your possibility that you mentioned to me on another show, and that's why I wanted you to bring this up just briefly.
Ring of Honor can't seem to catch a break. Earlier tonight, Bandito, the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion, pinged with a positive COVID test, so he is out of Final Battle coming up on Saturday. Supposedly the last Ring of Honor show, the end of an era, and your world champion can't perform at the show. It was supposed to be him against Jonathan Gresham in the main event. So now it's what the hell does Ring of Honor do on 48 hours notice to throw this thing together and not have this be a huge disappointment before they sign off the air for potentially the next 6 months, potentially forever. Like, I mean, this sucks. Like, from a Ring of Honor perspective, this is just an absolute mess. There's a lot of possibilities out there, but that's the big breaking news. Mikey T, were you aware of this before right now? I was watching your live reaction to what I was saying, and you were just like, damn.
No, I wasn't, man, but I think I heard Jeff Meacham talking about a show. It might have been an Impact show where some of the ROH champions were appearing. So I was sort of wondering, do you think there's any potential that ROH champions could appear at the AEW show Battle of the Belts?
Ooh, well,
Well, they got to figure out something for Saturday. So could this basically, Jargo, didn't you say it could be a rent-a-wrestler from Tony Khan?
Yeah, I mean, I
Or
looking
Impact.
around like the Twitterverse and the Metaverse, it sounds like Bryan Danielson is the popular and sexy pick here. Get Bryan Danielson versus Jonathan Gresham, all that history with Danielson. He's already kind of playing that American Dragon, I got till 5 dickhead Bryan Danielson. And him and Gresham probably would be a very good match stylistically. I think they could put it together pretty quickly. It's a matter of would Bryan Danielson want to do it? Because it seems like from a couple of weeks ago, there was a media scrum and they interviewed, Jay Lethal. I think it was right after his debut. And they talked to Punk, they talked to Danielson, and everybody seemed very, very negative towards Ring of Honor at that time. Possibly tensions have cooled a little bit, but I'm not even sure that Danielson would want to do it, but it sounds like that is the sexy pick. There's some other ones too. I mean, you got Adam Cole's over there, CM Punk is over there. So, I mean, you could do something really, really cool.
Take that title over to AEW. I know some people don't like other companies' titles on when you got your own to promote, but in this instance, there's a history with a lot of those wrestlers in that title.
I think the real bargaining chip here is Ring of Honor still owns all of the rights to All In. The genesis of All Elite Wrestling, Ring of Honor owns the video rights to. So, I mean, this could be call up Tony Khan on the phone and be like, we'll give you All In if he'll give us Bryan Danielson for one night.
Wow.
Business is business, man. I like it. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up because it's this Saturday, and if we hear something like that, oh my gosh, that's newsworthy, right? Bryan Danielson or something like that. And it might just be something in-house, like you mentioned earlier, have 2 Ring of Honor guys earlier in the night become number one contenders match to fight Gresham in the main event.
Jay Lethal, though, right? Wasn't Jay Lethal a former ROH champion?
Yep.
And that would be a big for the Ring of Honor audience. I don't know how much mainstream appeal it would get, but for the ROH audience, it would be good. C. Butler in the chat, a Samoa Joe cameo. I don't believe so. I believe Joe is still under contract with NXT.
Yeah.
And guys, while we're on the note of Jay Lethal, Aaron, you were doing a review of Dynamite last night, and you said that Jay Lethal was an afterthought after getting eliminated by Matt Hardy after getting hit in the face with brass knucks.
Well, yeah, he did get hit with the brass knucks, but it's just like he almost just felt like another guy on the roster, and it felt like when he debuted, he was something special, and now he's just a random guy getting eliminated in the Battle Royal. But yeah, you're right. He did get hit with the brass knucks, so he got a little bit of an out.
And now he's going to get the opportunity to face Big Money Matt. I think that'll be a big thing for Jay Lethal in his career.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know what? You actually might be onto something there, Mikey T, because also during that battle royal at the end of it, if anybody noticed, all of the lights went red and then everything went back to normal. And it was very, I don't know, Bray Wyatt-ish. And, so if you would bring in Bray Wyatt with Matt Hardy, because obviously we know the connection there, if Jay Lethal's the guy on the other side of the ring, that actually might be a huge match for Jay Lethal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the lights flickering for a few seconds. Some people thought that maybe that was just a technical mistake, but who knows? Maybe it wasn't.
Winter is coming. Maybe winter is, Wyndham Winter.
You could be right.
Point.
We'll see. And last year, Sting made his debut at Winter is Coming. Will they have another big surprise debut this coming Wednesday? We'll see. We'll see if we have a good topic for next week's No DQ review.
Guys, I was watching Ric Flair's new podcast with who's his co-host? That old WCW announcer, Madden, something Madden.
Mark Madden.
Mark Madden.
That's the old WCW commentator. That's now his podcast co-host.
Yeah.
So he was saying he really doesn't see where Bray Wyatt fits or, the Fiend fits in AEW. And I kind of agree. I really don't see where he would fit in. But Ric Flair made a very good statement when he said a 6'3", 300-pound guy who's that agile, you don't miss the opportunity to sign him. But I really just don't see where he fits in. Does anybody have any thoughts on?
I get that because he's very theatrical and AEW is more about being sports centric, so I get that. But man, he would be a good catch for AEW. A lot of people like him, and I think Virtue, you would probably agree that Bray Wyatt's one of those few guys that could bring in some of the more casual viewers.
He could. I don't know if Jargo will agree with me or not. If he wasn't doing the gimmick, the spooky, the supernatural gimmick, and got to work matches, and I know some people would say he always got hurt and whatnot, but like I went on YouTube not too long ago, and Bray Wyatt has a lot of video footage from top WWE matches where he worked with top stars, and this was before Fiend, and the matches were really good. If you let him work a wrestling match, it might not be your top of the line Bryan Danielson type stuff, but Jargo, he can work a match if he's healthy, man.
I firmly support bringing Wyndham Rotunda into AEW.
Yeah.
As long as it's Cult of Wyndham and not the Fiend. Like I want to see the psychopathic cult leader and what he actually could do with that character just released instead of through a WWE filter. I think just for the creative aspect, you bring him in, and I save him. I want to see him put together the real Wyatt family. Like let him have the Dark Order as far as I'm concerned.
Or maybe the House of Black.
Give him 7, 8, 9 guys underneath of him, and he's the final boss. So he only wrestles like once, maybe every 3 months, and you give him a microphone and let him run his mouth the rest of the time and just be the creative influence behind it.
Cult of Wyndham. Perfect.
Then when it actually starts, when he gets into the matches themselves, it's all about the pacing. He's just got to go in there, keep things nice and slow, and just pound people with that quick strike offense, and then just milk it for character work. And I think he would be a refreshing dose inside of AEW at this point.
Hey, Jargo.
Because Harper was doing, not Harper, but like he was doing well right before he got sick. Like he was like a nice change of pace in AEW.
I wanted to add to this. I remember several months ago, I'm not sure who addressed the idea, but somebody said, what if Bray Wyatt came in and took a person from each faction, like took somebody from the Pinnacle, took somebody from the Inner Circle.
That, I think.
Maybe might have been Jerry Slaughter, but whoever did, I like that idea a lot, where he comes in and he recruits one guy from each faction and makes his own super faction, Cult of Wyndham. I like the idea. Now, real quick before we get to the next topic, Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. He says, "Who would have thought Impact would outlast Ring of Honor?"
Not sure that's the case yet. We'll have to see if Ring of Honor does return in April.
Yeah, I haven't been able to watch a full episode of Impact Wrestling in years.
Me either. Last time I was interested in it was the Broken Hardy stuff, believe it or not.
Maybe when Bobby Lashley and Drew Gallows were there, possibly.
That was right around that same time.
Yeah, 2016. Dwayne Atkinson wanted to know about Eric Redbeard, if he should come in with Wyndham. What do you guys think?
I think I pass on Redbeard.
He needs to get in a little bit better shape. When he was on AEW that one time, he just kind of looked like he had not lost any weight with the little bit of time he had off or whatever. He needs to get in better shape. Who Mike Knox is challenging Trevor Murdoch next is what I've seen as well. But maybe he'll go over there as well to challenge.
And don't forget about Braun Strowman or whatever his name is now.
Well,
he's jacked at least.
I feel like that's the thing, though, right? Like I think if you bring Redbeard in with Wyndham, it's to WWE. I think you just want him and then kind of build his own new thing over here.
So moving on. Speaking of like where are these people going to go? Obviously, NXT just had War Games, a takeover, and we know what happened with NXT this week. We got Johnny Gargano, Kyle O'Reilly. What's going to happen with these guys now? I mean, right on the surface, fans, AEW fans, bring them on over. We'll take them here. That roster is getting thick. A lot of people there. What are they going to do? Could we see like what we wouldn't expect? Could these two guys be on the main roster? And yeah, you know how the size goes with them. But Mike, I would really like to see Gargano he was an NXT lifer, it seemed, right? Well, at some point, the way NXT's changed now, you can either go to another promotion or you finally make the big step to the main roster. I'd really like to see some of these guys go to the main roster and succeed. And I'm not talking about like what Adam Cole was going to be a manager. So I would have been all for that because I love the manager role, but I get it. Adam Cole wants to work matches because that's what he does, not manage. But where are these guys going, Mikey T, in your opinion? I still think there's rumors of either way, main roster or another promotion. What do you call?
Well, on the note of Adam Cole, I ultimately don't think they would have shaved his head and made him a manager with a big megaphone like Jimmy Hart. I do not think that they would have done that with Adam Cole, although there was some reports about that. Now, watching Adam Cole, now he's on the middle of the show in AEW, beating up Orange Cassidy, hanging out with the Young Bucks. If he was still in NXT, he would have been the center point of NXT without a doubt, in my opinion. Just to touch on that. Although, like Tony Khan said, they do have less viewers over there. They have like 600,000, 630,000 viewers a week nowadays. Now, Johnny Gargano, guys, I'm going to be honest. I don't think that feud that they're giving him with who's the guy that came out and attacked him? Yeah. I don't think that's big enough for Johnny Gargano to stay, to be 100% honest with you guys. He's not re-signing with the company. He's going off. He has a kid. And, he's going to have some time to talk to Tony Khan. And I think that Johnny Gargano is somebody that they could build AEW around. I don't think they're going to build Raw or SmackDown around him, even though this guy is as popular. Johnny Gargano seems to be as popular as Daniel Bryan in his heyday, and they just won't do it. Does Johnny Gargano look like Daniel Garcia? You know what I'm saying?
Are you telling me, as moderator, I got to ask this question to you. Are you telling me then if Gargano was put into the Superdome in front of that many people, he could get them all to chant, like not chant yes, but that's where Daniel Bryan was.
He was there.
You think Gargano is there now in the NXT environment, but that's such a small sample size.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm not going to argue with you there. He definitely is over in that environment.
Let me say something here. I think that if Gargano was on the main roster and got the kind of push that Daniel Bryan got, I think it's certainly a possibility. You look at those takeovers when they were drawing 10,000 people in the buildings, Gargano was getting huge reactions, and WrestleMania is the most hardcore fans that fly from all over the world to WrestleMania, and at least at WrestleMania, Gargano would get a huge reaction. He might not be super over with your average viewer, but I think with your hardcore fans, they would react to him like they would react to Daniel Bryan, I think, with the right push.
Yeah, but Virtue's right because, Johnny Gargano was practically in the impact zone every week, whereas Daniel Bryan was going out there in front of the massive crowds, and Johnny Gargano was in front of, the 600 to 1,000 people at the NXT arena or whatever it was. But I feel what you're saying, Aaron. With the push, Johnny Gargano really could have been there. But that's why I asked the question, because when I look at Daniel Garcia, from 2.0 on television, I'm just like, he's too small to be there. Jargo, is Danny Garcia and Johnny Gargano the same size, or is Gargano a little bit bigger? Because this is a problem that some of these superstars are facing. They don't look big enough to be taken serious.
Well, in terms of Vince McMahon's vision for the main roster.
Well, that much I agree with. But I do think the best place for Johnny Gargano is on SmackDown.
I agree.
And it's taking that role that Bryan was in, that underdog babyface, and instead of the yes chant, you get the Johnny wrestling chant.
And Jargo, on top of that,
I'd like to see that.
With Jeff Hardy being gone now, that's even more reason for Johnny Gargano to be on SmackDown, because you're one person short that could potentially face Roman Reigns. Johnny Gargano can be now that Daniel Bryan / Jeff Hardy person on SmackDown.
And I think the thing that gets lost about Johnny Gargano is he's only 34 years old.
Right.
I thought he was actually a little bit older than that, but I looked it up the other day. He's only 34. So he's still got, where he could probably go pretty hard for another 6 to 8 years. I don't expect Johnny Wrestling to be headlining WrestleMania this year, but if you book him the right way, 3, maybe 4 years from now, yeah, you could get to that Daniel Bryan level with Johnny Gargano. I think Johnny's absolutely fantastic. I am afraid that he would get lost in the shuffle on that AEW roster, especially amongst guys like Daniel Garcia.
Yeah, and that's something I'd like to see. Adam Cole.
Kyle is going to end. I'm sorry, Virtue. I think Kyle O'Reilly is going to be the one that ends up staying on SmackDown, to be honest with you guys. He seems like he will be.
What do you do with him, though? I mean, that's the question. Like, because you can put him in AEW, you reform Red Dragon, and you're off and running, right? Like, they're one of the best tag teams in the world, Fish and O'Reilly together. They're absolutely fantastic. What do you do with Kyle O'Reilly as a single star inside of a WWE context where work rate isn't necessarily what it's focused on? It's more character based. And as much as I like Kyle O'Reilly, he has zero personality unless he's being a goon alongside of Bobby Fish and Adam Cole.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with that. I think O'Reilly would be better off in AEW. I think Johnny Gargano would be better off on SmackDown.
Yeah.
I was watching the end of the show when they had Kyle O'Reilly hanging upside down from the steel cage and they were smacking him with the steel chair. I think that's going to lead, personally, just watching it, I think that's going to lead to him coming back, getting his victory, and going to the main roster. Whereas when I look at Johnny Gargano, I just see like he feels NXT is over. His run with that company, as beautiful as it was, it's over. And I don't think he sees much of a future in the WWE. So I don't see him re-signing. I guess we got a little bit of a difference of opinion there. But that's just, I think Kyle O'Reilly is going to fill the Daniel Bryan void. And he has a bit of personality with that Punk character that they created for him.
Too many people are going over to AEW. Right? What does Johnny Gargano want to wrestle on Dark?
Right. I feel like Kyle O'Reilly is less interesting Eddie Edwards, and like, I feel like they're the same character.
I think Johnny Gargano wants to go to AEW and wrestle a heel Bryan Danielson Virtue.
I think the other part that we're not really looking at here is Candice, and what is Candice going to want to do when Candice returns? Obviously her contract's going to be extended, but Candice LeRae is better friends with everybody over in AEW than Johnny Gargano is, and Candice LeRae would be a huge get for that AEW women's roster.
Boom.
We'll see what happens. Again, AEW, keep bringing all the wrestlers over. You already have way too many. I'd like to see something different where all the fans are expecting one thing. Johnny Gargano shows up on SmackDown, and now all of a sudden, oh my God, he doesn't fit the bill of what Vince McMahon looks, but yet there he is because they want to fill those holes that Daniel Bryan left. Now Jeff Hardy left, and that's how you do it. Doesn't mean they will because it's WWE, but that's what I would like to see. Something you wouldn't expect in the time of all of those wrestlers being rumored to leave for AEW, like Kevin Owens might. So
well, in Virtue, you talk about, the WWE core demographic of, 8 to 14 all the time. Johnny Gargano would be there like Lord and Savior, man.
Yeah. Yeah. He's likable, and I guess we'll see what happens. As for Kyle O'Reilly, I feel like he would be a better fit in AEW. So a couple people against you, Mikey T there, but
maybe as a tag team wrestler, but I think he's outgrown that tag team with Bobby Fish.
Maybe we'll be surprised, right? Maybe WWE will surprise us and they both show up on the main roster.
But Jargo, I don't think Johnny Gargano wants to be. I mean, he is having a kid right now, but I still think that he's going with the trend of serious wrestling. I don't think he wants to be that guy for the 8 to 14 or what bracket, 8 to 14 or whatever, the child bracket. I don't think he wants to be there. I think he wants to be that 18 to 49 bracket, the people who really loved wrestling a few years ago from NXT. And Candice LeRae is another major example because she's not going to get anywhere going back to NXT and feuding with Mandy Rose.
Kyle O'Reilly needs to get hit in the head by a baseball bat from Sami Callihan. Be the best thing that ever happened to him.
Oh, Sami Callihan.
Ready for the main event, gentlemen?
Well, we do have a couple of super chats, so let me get to those real quick.
First.
Mo Camber with a $2.79 super chat says, Johnny Gargano on SmackDown just to get buried by Roman. Okay, losing to Roman Reigns doesn't mean that you're buried. If anything, being on the island of relevancy would be noteworthy. Like losing to Roman Reigns, you're losing to the best.
Yeah,
it's not
like it's like losing to CM Punk in AEW.
Kind of. I mean, Punk didn't headline any WrestleManias, but
it is an honor to lose to CM Punk. Ask Matt Sydal or that guy Lee Moriarty.
There you go. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says Gargano would be the same annoying heel as Sami Zayn.
Oh,
I don't think he should be a heel. I think that would be a huge mistake to make him a heel. He's got to be a babyface. He's got to have rebel heart. You know, if they don't use that song, then they might as well not use him because that song is great.
I was going to say that.
Let's see here.
We'll see, man.
Dwayne Atkinson sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you guys for the super chats, by the way. He says, too bad Gargano and Kyle O'Reilly could not make cameos at Ring of Honor if their contracts are expired. Never say never. Stranger things have happened.
Days, though, right? It's 30 days in NXT,
right? Once your contract's expired, you're completely a free agent. There's no non-compete. It's only a non-compete if you're let go before your contract is up.
And I associate Kyle much more with ROH than I do Johnny.
Yeah. But I think if anybody shows up at that Ring of Honor show, it'll be somebody from AEW.
Good point. Now, main event, we're going right back to CM Punk. So Dynamite was in Long Island Wednesday night, and the beginning of the show was MJF's music. Jargo had an interesting little spot here, so I'm going to go to him first on this. But out came CM Punk. Now, I thought that they should have done this with MJF coming out to Punk's music, not necessarily Punk's return, because that was a special night, but they were in Chicago a couple times after that. So one of those times, because then what happened where Punk came out to MJF's music, to me would have been like, oh, wow, that happened, now this happened. But Jargo, tell me what you noticed during this. And this is our main event tonight because it's CM Punk and the fact that Aaron only had a 17-minute AEW recap, but he used Punk heel, and what happened is, and it's that video has got like 6,000 views. Controversial Punk, heel Punk draws, man.
I don't understand. I don't understand why everybody keeps calling this a heel promo. Okay. I mean, number one, unless you are from Long Island, that was a babyface promo. Okay. Like everybody knows that Long Islanders are just a bunch of terrible people. And CM Punk was just calling them out, especially for their terrible taste in hockey teams. Oh yeah, go Blackhawks. It's the one thing me and CM Punk agree about on a personal level. But I feel like the one thing that kind of got lost here was could have went a couple of different ways. When MJF's music hit at the beginning of the show, if they would have booed MJF, I think that you would have seen MJF come out through that curtain. I don't think that they would have went with CM Punk.
So there was a hitch, you said. There was like a stall.
Yeah, I mean, that music went on for about 20 seconds before Punk came walking out there. I think they knew what they were getting themselves into, and it took a lot of balls for Tony Khan to actually make that call last night. The CM Punk promo itself might have been the most important promo of MJF's career, because now MJF has that safe haven. MJF has that babyface fan base. And I thought it was just played so freaking well on all accounts. But this was a one-off for CM Punk to get MJF over in his hometown. MJF got super over last night. And it was all because of CM Punk going for that cheap heat. While us as the TV viewer may have watched it one way, those fans in that arena viewed it very, very differently. That promo was to get MJF over, and it was mission accomplished for CM Punk last night.
Mikey T, here's the thing, heel or not heel, when Punk is edgy, when Punk does what he wants, chip on his shoulder, it's good for wrestling. Like, and that's what happened last night. How do you view what you saw, and of course what Jargo just said.
All right, so I heard about this promo, so I saw that it was at the beginning of the show. I was like, all right, great. Let me get a chance to watch this promo. But I'm going to say, man, I've been regurgitating some of the stuff that you've been saying, Virtue, over the last few weeks. I told a couple of my friends, I was like,
well, I'm interesting.
What are you, Big G now?
I was telling a couple of my friends.
He follows me on Twitter.
I was like, yo, no, I'll be watching it on the review. You know, I was like, honestly, Tony Khan had the ball, you know, a few weeks ago when he was doing 1.2, 1.3 million viewers. He had a whole 200 extra thousand viewers based on Punk and Bryan, and he didn't drop the ball, or he didn't throw the ball, knock the ball out of the park with these CM Punk and MJF feuds. He had CM Punk fighting Matt Sydal rather than when 1.2 million people are tuning in, rather than doing this promo. And you see what happens 3 weeks later. Now they got 898,000 people watching the promo that really we all tuned in 4 or 5 weeks ago to see shit like this.
Right.
And we're not getting it. We didn't get it. You know what I mean? We didn't get the CM Punk that we knew. We got the guy who would go on the talk shows. You know what I mean? Like your Jimmy Fallon talk shows and be like, it's so great to be here, this, that, and the third. But another thing I want to bring up from the promo. So last week, 2 weeks ago, it was cool that CM Punk beat QT Marshall. But this week, now it's like a third-rate baseball team or whatever. So now CM Punk is pretty much dissing the matches that he's already had himself. You know what I mean? Punk is the one and Tony Khan are the one who are subjecting us to watching CM Punk versus QT Marshall or CM Punk versus Lee Moriarty. I wasn't fantasizing about these matches from the last 7 years.
But Michael, I wasn't a big fan of those matches either. But we got to look at it this way: Punk was off 7 years.
It's true.
That was maybe to get him back in with TV time wrestling, like getting his feet back before they put him in a big match where everyone's going to be watching even closer. So that's probably why they went with a lot of those matches, to get Punk that back into the groove.
Shape. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt there.
Yep, I agree with that. And, you know, when we do see a real CM Punk heel turn, probably in the middle of 2022, when he probably does something dastardly to offend all of the Hangman Page fans, then we'll start to see the real CM Punk that we all used to see back in the day, that used to like hypnotize little girls. And you know what I mean? He used to turn people's family members against them and shit like that, make people shave their head. There's going to be no limits to what we could see with CM Punk over the next 5 years. And I think that's what he meant about changing wrestling.
I think the interesting thing here is Punk saying that he's going to be watching the World Heavyweight Championship match next week. Yeah. And thus kind of making, you know, whenever this match happens, which we still don't know when in the hell this match is supposed to happen, CM Punk versus MJF, it's going to be kind of a de facto #1 contenders match. So next week, I'm still leaning towards Bryan Danielson taking this title from Hangman Page. Does that mean that Punk goes over MJF and we are set up for, you know, Final Battle 2005, the American Dragon Bryan Danielson versus CM Punk?
Well, personally, I think, and what do you guys think as well? I think that they should drag CM Punk and MJF to Revolution. I would have thought that they would have built
until February, though.
Yeah.
Right?
I would have thought they would have put CM Punk versus Wardlow at Winter's Coming. You know, then we get CM Punk versus Shawn Spears in January, and they make it a simple build. You guys don't see it lasting to Revolution?
I mean, I'm starting to wonder if they're going to do like a best 3 out of 5 or something, or 2 out of 3 or something, you know? And so you get one on like, you know, the January 1st show, or that first show on TBS, you get another one at, you know, Battle of the Belts. And then maybe you get the blow off at Revolution.
I mean, hey, we finally got the MJF and Punk thing. Bryan Danielson is in the AEW World Title picture, so it took some time, but they're there now. Now, Mikey T, right? It doesn't have that 1.1, 1.2 that Dynamite was getting. Rampage got. So I don't know how they course correct that. But
Virtue, do those 200, I'm sorry, Jargo, but Virtue, do those 250,000 people that tuned in to CM Punk, do they not know he's actually feuding with somebody credible right now?
No, I think what a lot of it is, because when you look at the +3 and the +7 rating, those numbers have stayed pretty damn consistent. I really think it's this time change with the whole NHL deal and the West Coast not getting it live everything's on delay now.
Thanks, Dave. No, yeah, I gotcha, right?
Because when you look at the +3 and the +7, that number hasn't changed. It's just the live viewership has changed. But when you look at the long term off of the DVR and whatnot, everything is averaging out.
See, we didn't have that.
Damn consistent.
Back in the Attitude Era, we didn't have that, right? TiVo was still a new thing. TiVo, not Tito. That was such a new concept. We didn't have that +3, +7 back then.
No, absolutely not.
It was VCRs. But Aaron, you got some super chats. I'm going to pass it over to you now.
Yes, and thanks to StreamYard having the starred feature, I can now save the super chats and get to them easily without having to scroll up and whatnot. So thank you, StreamYard. Walter Cruz sent in a super chat earlier. I just wanted to read it off saying, it's so sad for him. Get better, Jeff Hardy. And we all agree on that. Thank you, Walter. And Walter sent in another $5 super chat. Thank you, Walter, again. He says, Punk doesn't need to be the heel or face. Just put him out there and let the crowd react. How they don't want.
Let me say this.
Go ahead.
Let me say this, Walter. And Walter, you're a good dude. I was watching you on here a few weeks ago. CM Punk was really acting like he didn't know what it was like to get that reaction from the crowd. We saw him get that same reaction at Full Gear when the crowd turned their back on CM Punk. We've already seen what the smart crowd does. So, you know what I mean? They obviously played to it on this episode of Dynamite. I just want to point that out. What we've seen a crowd really turn on CM Punk.
Yeah. I don't think they ever will really fully turn on him. Like he's one of those guys that has reached that legendary status, although Bryan Danielson's getting people to boo him, so maybe CM Punk could make it work. He's one of the few guys that I think could make it work because he's
I feel like so the more heel Punk gets, though, the more people cheer him. The more people like evil Dick Punk. They just don't like Happy Phil.
He's going to do something that makes the people hate him really bad. Like he will find a way that turns him into like the AEW, Grim Reaper.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. I mean, I'm fine with what Bryan Danielson's doing right now. Like,
yeah, it's fine. Interesting.
All right, let's see. We got another super chat here. Psycho Jet Black actually has two, so I will read both of those off. First one from Psycho Jet Black. He says, CM Punk makes a better John Cena than Cody Rhodes. Well, Cody Rhodes is making a pretty good John Cena right now. I got to say, he's really making the most of the mixed reactions, I think. What do you guys think?
Punk will never be John Cena, not in a bad way. Punk, just too many people like Punk. He wouldn't get that, like we just talked about. He wouldn't get that disdain of ever getting pushed, whether it's a top heel or face.
Punk doesn't kiss enough ass to be John Cena.
Yeah, there you go. And MJF saying he kisses ass and all that. But yeah, I don't think people would ever see CM Punk in that way, that he's an ass kisser or a company guy. Like CM Punk is CM Punk. And like you said, he could be a heel or a face, but that promo definitely got some people talking, got some traffic for the Dynamite recap for sure. And
Cody sort of did it to himself. Cody did it to himself with all these horrible feuds with Anthony Ogogo at one of their biggest pay-per-views, feuding with QT Marshall, putting his wife on television, all this stuff he's done. It's like it really ruined his credibility, you know what I mean? And I think he really did it to himself. Like, why not just go heel and face Hangman Page? That'd be a nice little feud right there. But
you know what's funny, guys? Cody's done all of this, right? Maybe it's the Brandy. People don't like Brandy, and she's always on TV with him. Cody never put himself as the world champion, though. He stayed away from that. So it's like he's not sitting there pushing himself up. I don't know.
That's because there's huge money in dickhead Cody going back on his word and winning the AEW World Championship. Let's not pretend like we didn't see Dusty.
So are we getting there then eventually with what's happening, and it's just organically happening? He's organically getting hated, and he's making it look like he wants to be a top face. I don't know why you guys hate me. Jargo, that could be your big heel down the road. Not Punk, not Brian. I don't know.
And I still think that the once Cody turns heel, and after that promo last night, it sure seemed like we're awful close to it, right? And maybe that goes down at Winter is Coming as well. The next feud I want to see is Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk, because I want Cody to come out and just blame Punk for it. Like, you people loved me until Punk showed up. So, you know what? I'm going to kick Punk's ass. And that's his motivation. I could see that being a great feud for both of those guys. And I think that stylistically, they'd work really well together.
You know what's really going to hurt Cody because this thing with the fans turning their back on him, you could tell it's kind of hurting him emotionally. But what's really going to hurt him is on Christmas Day when they're promoting the TNT Championship, Cody Rhodes in a match. It's really going to hurt him when that Dynamite rating comes in and everybody is just like, you know what, I'd rather just spend time with my family than watch Cody Rhodes challenge for the TNT. That's what's really going to kill Cody.
He'll figure it out. Who is his father? He will figure out what he needs to do to be valuable.
Yeah, but there's a lot of revisionist history over how beloved of a figure Dusty Rhodes is. Let's remember when Dusty had the book, he was one of the most hated people in wrestling.
Oh yeah,
but he knew, but he still knew how to treat the business. And I'm talking behind the fourth wall, the curtain.
Yeah, so am I. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah. I think Cody will be fine. And Brandy and Cody they're too much trying to be like Triple H and Stephanie.
Well,
right?
and
that's why the fans hate them.
You say people don't like Brandy. Okay, I'm saying, give me one redeemable quality about Brandy Rhodes other than she's pretty.
Yes,
I mean, there's
that's how it used to
else.
be in wrestling. That's all you needed to be if you were a female.
Yeah, and that's great for a heel valet, which is why the Brandy and Cody pairing worked originally to begin with.
All right, more super chats there, man. Whew, we're getting close.
Yeah, Jay Hunter sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Jay. He says, Cody is better than that bum Okada, right, Jargo?
Well, you know, Kazuchika Okada is kind of on my shit list at the moment, because it was bad enough when he let the best friends into Chaos. I was not happy about Orange Cassidy officially being a member of Chaos, but now Sue is in Chaos? Really? Sue is in freaking Chaos.
So wait a minute, really? Jargo, is this a faction within a faction? Best friends are a faction and they're part of the Chaos faction?
Yes. Yeah, that's the official story now going around. And I hate everything about it. I hate everything about this because it's terrible. We have Toru Yano and Orange Cassidy in the same faction as the greatest professional wrestler in the world. This is not acceptable. It's time to break up Chaos. I'm done with it.
All right. Pipe bomb from Jargo right there. All right. Got a few more super chats. Psycho Jet Black has 2 more. He said with $2, he says, Cody Rhodes does not want to be the AEW Jeff Jarrett.
I would love to see that match.
Cody versus Jeff Jarrett?
It's not just past that, I think.
Yeah.
He's too old. Yeah, sorry.
Damn.
On some kind of guitar on a pole match or sledgehammer on a pole match?
It would be such good shit.
They could put a sledgehammer on one pole and then they could put the guitar on the other pole and then you just go up for whatever object you want.
Golden shovel.
Brandy on a pole match.
Brandy on the 4th pole. There you go.
4 poles. The winner. No. I guess it would be Karen Angle and Jeff Jarrett versus Brandy and Cody.
Ooh, there you go. Intergender match. See, we just did 6 months of booking for AEW if they ever want to do Cody Rhodes versus Jeff Jarrett.
That would be Impact, Aaron.
Oh, and for those of you that say I always have to put Roman Reigns in the main event discussion, I saw how Aaron popped the number last night with CM Punk and AEW. The Jeff Hardy news broke today, but what are we talking about in the main event? AEW, CM Punk. I give the NoDQ Galaxy what they want, okay?
All right, and Psycho Jet Black sent in a $5 super chat, says, Mikey T and Virtue is a better duo than Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss. Also, should CM Punk have his own faction and have his own faction when he eventually turns heel?
Yes, I'm more
Straight edge
over than
society.
Madcap Moss.
I'm fully down for CM Punk leading a faction if he can get, 3-4 young guys over at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Daniel Bryan said he wanted to do lead a faction, but then I had read somewhere he said he wanted Daniel Garcia to be in his faction, and I'm like,
how is Daniel Garcia's getting an awful lot of talk here today? What's the deal?
I feel like Bryan wants to put together his own version of Catchpoint inside of AEW.
The only problem I think is that there's too many factions as it is. Like I'm cool with.
There's no such thing as too many factions. Coming from a New Japan fan, there's no such thing as too many factions, except for Chaos. Chaos has to go.
Well, Aaron.
So then there's too many factions.
Daniel Garcia put out Jericho, and he didn't. Jericho wasn't on AEW last night, was he?
Jericho's on tour. I don't think Jericho's going to be back until like after March or something.
Well, Jericho apparently was hospitalized. His Fozzy concert got canceled, so hopefully he's okay. Non-COVID.
The chair shot.
Well, in kayfabe he is. Let's see here. Real quick, we got Psycho Jet Black sending in another $2 super chat. Thank you, Psycho Jet Black. He says, "Is Mama Sue more over than Madcap Moss?"
She is in Long Island.
Yeah, I think she is. I don't think
That
Madcap Moss is
pop
too over.
for Mama Sue.
Yeah,
Oh
when is the
my
last
God.
time? Will Madcap Moss ever get a pop like that? I don't think so.
No.
right.
I was hoping Mama Sue didn't fall over like Arn Anderson, though, you guys. I was like, oh, please. She ran to the steps.
And shout out to Trent Beretta for finally shaving his head.
Why,
Finally.
is he going bald?
Yeah, that's why he always had like the unmovable bandana.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like, why did he come back like that? Is there going to be a heel turn? He was wearing all black.
He's been fighting it for about 5 years now. So, shout out to Trent for finally biting the bullet.
Welcome back.
Bald is beautiful, Trent. Bald is beautiful.
And he looked in good shape too, so hats off to him. Jay Hunter sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you. Jay says, "That's what we need, another AEW faction, yawn." Well, as long as they break up a couple of factions, then yeah, you could add a few more. But I think when everybody's in a faction, I think that's maybe a little bit overkill. But you know what, Jargo? I do agree that it's nice when you got some factions. I think back to the peak of the Attitude Era when you had all the different factions like the Ministry of Darkness and the Corporation, the Union. All those factions were pretty cool at going up against each other.
How long did the Union even last for, though, Aaron?
Okay.
I always try and go to find clips of the Union. There's one clip of the Union when Shane McMahon brought them all together, and that's it.
Bad example then. Okay, the Brood or D-Generation X, the Nation of Domination. I could go on.
There's a lot of Japanese influence inside of AEW and the way that AEW does their booking, right? And if you want a sports-like presentation, then you need a bunch of teams. That's really what's going on here. You get a bunch of teams inside of the company, and then if you have a match that you don't give a damn about, right? Like we'll take two random New Japan wrestlers. If you don't care about Bushi and you don't care about Doki and they're having a wrestling match, you default to which team do I like more? Do I like Los Ingobernables de Japón more? Or do I like Suzuki-gun more? And then you pull for that guy. So it actually does add to the sports-like presentation that they're trying to achieve. It's just you end up with a lot of factions because you need a lot of teams.
And you know what? You could also just say that there's a lot of people on the roster and you need to get people on TV.
Well, man, I really don't like what they do with the best friends with this guy Wheeler Yuta and the other guy. It's like they're shoving them down my throat, and it's like, all right, these guys are not appealing to me. I don't want to see Wheeler Yuta versus John Mox. You know what I mean?
Well, you probably speak for a lot of the more casual AEW viewers, whatever those people are, the so-called casual fans that AEW has. They're probably thinking the same thing as you.
But on the positive, you get to see John Moxley this week. He goes out there, he beats somebody up. Right. People enjoy that. And you didn't blow a match that you could have been saving for pay-per-view, and you don't end up with the same match for 6 weeks like you do on Monday Night Raw.
All right, so let me rephrase. I am cool with Jon Moxley versus Wheeler Yuta. I just don't want to see Wheeler Yuta dragged around by two dope guys like the Best Friends who are getting over with me. You know, these guys are getting over. And then you add in Orange Cassidy. And then you add in the girl who, you know, was floundering a little bit, but they threw her in the group. And now it's cool. But now you got Wheeler Yuta. And now I don't think they got anybody else. I think they just brought in one of the Japanese wrestlers, but
Rocky Romero.
And thus the connection to Chaos right there. Rocky freaking Romero.
Which it's like, what was the point of that? Why would the Best Friends have anything to do with the New Japan wrestlers? Even Daniel Bryan was upset that they didn't bring that was it Chaos or someone from the group in just to wrestle him.
It's so that they can keep saying Kazuchika Okada's name on AEW television until he finally shows up. That's the only logical reason that they would even mention Chaos on AEW TV. Because I mean, Jim Ross says Okada's name more than I do, and I can't keep his name out of my mouth.
Oh, we're gonna have some fun discussion closer to day one and Wrestle Kingdom about Roman Reigns and Okada, Jargo. It's going to be great.
I say one thing about day one that I think would have been really interesting. So I'm watching a little NXT the other night, and how dope would it have been if Braun Breaker would have just challenged Tommaso Ciampa at day one? If he was like, we're going to do this at the first day of the year, I want it for the NXT title at day one. Like, that would have made the day one aspect a little bit more important to me. Like, it's day one for all WWE or NXT superstars.
Well, I get what you're saying there, Mikey T. And one thing I think they should do that they haven't really done, well, they did. They had Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair for the NXT title at WrestleMania. But I think they should have the NXT title defended at WrestleMania just to make the title seem like a little bit more of a big deal.
I feel like the second Vince McMahon sees what happened at War Games with Braun Breaker being unable to break those chains, he immediately went from being a future WWE WrestleMania main eventer to the kickoff show guy.
I hope not. I hope Vince did not see that. Now, real quick before we wrap up, Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Says, "Is the Union and 3 count more over than Madcap Moss?"
The Union wasn't really a thing. I think somebody got injured.
I still have no idea who Madcap Moss is, but I'm a fan of 3 count, so I'll go with it.
He's the guy with the plaid pants and the suspenders that comes out with Baron Corbin every week.
Yeah, I don't watch that.
Well, you're smart. You're smarter than the rest of us.
Did you get through all the super chats, Aaron?
But no,
yeah, we're caught up.
Okay. Well, you know how this goes. This doesn't mean the discussion is over, but let's go around and do our plugs. So since this was your debut, Mikey T, I'll start with you. What would you like to say right now?
All right, you guys, I have a YouTube channel. It's Report Card Radio. I do interviews. I've interviewed some of the best rappers out there, from like Lil Wayne to Rick Ross to French Montana. You know, so I want everybody to tap in with me on YouTube if you can. All you got to do is type in Mikey T, the movie star, or Report Card Radio. I really appreciate the opportunity to get on with the panel tonight, man. I've been checking out Aaron Rift. As I said, I'm kind of a day one NoDQ WWF WCW guy. Virtue, I definitely tapped in on Virtue's Rage with you and Big G. And Jargo, obviously you're new to the show, but you have a lot of different insight, man. Hearing you talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling tonight was pretty dope as well, how it is all intertwined with AEW, man. But thanks for the opportunity, guys, man. Appreciate the audience.
Well, thanks for being on. Now, Jargo, what Mike was talking about is Big G and I used to do a Virtue's Rage on Facebook several years ago. We actually, it's Jargo and I now over on Vito's channel. We still do Virtue's Rage. So it's still live.
Virtue's Rage still?
Yeah, just follow me. You Twitter. The links are
I've been trying to tap in with you on Vito's channel to watch the MOB show, the another show, Off Color or something. I've been trying to
getting color. I like Off Color. I'm going to start calling it that.
Why not? Vito changes the names of the shows all the time. So,
yeah. Jargo, over to you, man.
You can find me across social media platforms at NotJargo, MichaelJargo.com, DestinoPod.com. If you want to hear me talk even more New Japan Pro Wrestling as we get closer to Wrestle Kingdom, we'll have the preview coming out with 8-Track Brown, and I'm sure Billy Ray Valentine, Mighty Joe Morin will be joining me on that show. So 3 nights to run down all kinds of cool stuff. And then, of course, over at the Blow Off over at atmarkmedia.com, that show comes out weekly. 6 shows, 60 minutes. Good times over there with my man down under the GAG from the PWC, my tag team partner, Jimmy T.
All right, good having you on, and you'll be back. Aaron Rift.
Jimmy T. So we got Mikey T, we got Jimmy T. We got to have a triple threat match with Booker T.
Put the T on the pole.
Booker T on a pole match. We'll have like a whole pay-per-view card of pole matches. We'll have the Jeff Jarrett Cody Rhodes match. We'll have the 3-way T match with the T on the pole.
I want Britt Baker on a pole match, and you can imagine how she is on the pole.
Jargo versus Tony Schiavone.
It's Schiavone. Say it right. Jeez.
All right. Well, anyways, I wanted to give a shout out to Joey on Facebook, who said that Thursday night this is becoming his fix. We very much appreciate it, and we appreciate everybody for tuning in as always. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $5 super chat. He says, seriously, if Braun Breaker fails to get over in WWE, then there's almost no one left for Roman Reigns put over. He desperately needs a credible rival.
There is. I'm going to say no. I've been holding this back for a long time, and Braun Breaker could still very well be a big star. I'm going to give you one name, and it might take some time, but I've been watching him. Not in wrestling, but what he did out of wrestling. This guy's going to be something. Gable Steveson.
Okay.
You heard it here first.
All right.
He's got it. He's got it, man. I don't know. It's weird. They avoided NXT with him. I'm interested in this.
I agree with you about the talent. I disagree with the premise. Everybody's looking for that great rival for Roman Reigns. It's not about Roman Reigns. It's never been about Roman Reigns. It's about Brock Lesnar, and you bring in Gable Stevens to beat Brock Lesnar. Roman Reigns is the afterthought. He's the Azran to this third part of Brock Lesnar's storied career in Vince McMahon's mind.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm just saying, man, the guy can flip too. There you go, people.
Quick question here. Quick question.
Flip.
Is anybody here familiar with any of the new next in line signings? Any of those athletes?
I have to research those.
Yeah, because maybe one of them will turn out to be something special.
I do find it ironic that the WWE is going with NIL. And kind of moving away from the NXT branding, especially with the name, image, and likeness thing that happened in the NCAA with professional sports. It's very, very interesting the way that they're putting together next in line.
Yep. Aaron, we caught up?
Yeah, we're caught up. So thank you guys for tuning in. We very much appreciate it. Like I said, stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. And I think we're done with the pay-per-views now until day 1. So everybody enjoy your weekend. Happy holidays, although we will be back. I think we'll be on every week because I don't think we conflict with Christmas, Virtue. Are we going to be on every week?
We're going to definitely try. I mean, I know the topics might be tough, but, I mean, the Super Chats and the NoDQ Galaxy can make this happen. So, yes, I'm going to try to be every Thursday the rest of the way out.
All right.
Hey,
so
who won? You or Big G?
Oh, I tied with Caitlin. Husband and wife won the thing. And, of course, there's the conspiracy theories. So, by the way, guys, at Noah Foster, nfoster1916 on Twitter. Make sure you guys follow him. He'll be doing the Predictions League again for 2022. Everybody can participate and get their predictions in for that. So that's all I got. Virtue, go ahead.
All right. Now, Aaron, what graphic do you have for me? Did you update it yet?
Oh, no, I don't think I updated it yet. You're going to have to – okay, wait. Actually, I did. No, that's Big G. Never mind.
I love
Shout
that Big G graphic.
So go ahead.
Follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. The Troll Slayer is gone. You'll get nothing but great interactions with me. Look at this new shirt. It says, I'm sorry. I'm apologizing to anybody in the NoDQ Galaxy that needs it. There's what the back of the shirt looks like. So you got your NoDQ logo. go over to nodq.com/merch. And there's other merchandise over there as well, not just mine, but Mr. Tito even has a shirt. So that is all I have to say this week. Mike, it has been awesome to have you on. Jargo, as always, you know you'll be back. And, of course, Aaron. But this has been the No DQ review number 165, a staple of Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, live. And we're going to do it again next week. So, No DQ Galaxy, for Mikey T, for Jargo, for Aaron, I am Virtue. Good evening, and we will see you again next time.